That was for the out-of-towners, in case they didn't know who you were. Also joining us for this conversation will be Denis Resnik, from the Real Arizona Coalition. Oh, and for you out-of-towners, he is the mayor of Phoenix, the many of the towns that are here. Victor Trevino, our general counsel. And finally, Phil Boas, who is the editorial page editor of the Arizona Republic. So I'm going to lead the discussion, but I'm going to try to stay out of the way as much as possible. There's been a lot of conversation recently about a change in tone in Arizona, a change in tone in the country in terms of our regard for immigrants. And a lot of people seem to think that that has something to do with at least some new leaders stepping up to the plate and being willing to speak out a little more forcefully on this issue than perhaps we have in the past, and doing it in a civil manner. So I'd like to just start at the far end with Phil, because your newspaper actually wrote about this just last weekend. And if you could just, are we in a different place? Are we being a little bit too rosy-eyed? Where are we now?
No, not at all. I think we've made tremendous progress. I think we're going to look back on the 1070 moment as an anomaly. I think we're going to be ashamed of it when we look back on it and think about it. But we're also going to understand that it was sort of a perfect storm when a lot of things were converging at once, and that really. Oh, now you can hear me.
Yeah.
Hold it close, right? There were all these things converging, though. We had a terrible economy. We had this violence emerging in Mexico. We had the popular wind that was getting behind doing something about illegal immigration. Arizona had been turned into sort of the funnel for illegal immigration. And just like had happened in California 10 years earlier, we saw the convulsions. People forget this, but California 10 years earlier did things that were far more draconian. Came up with Prop 187, which was really terrible legislation, just like our own. And we look at California today. I mean, you would never think that California was a place that could have done that. And how many people know that it was Democrats in California who really started that moment where there was a turn against immigrants? I mean, Dianne Feinstein was one of the people who had begun to, who thought that there needed to be stricter, tougher laws dealing with immigration. Well, it was because California at that moment was the funnel, and they were getting an enormous amount of illegal immigration. I'll keep this short, but the point here is that the point here is that it's not an Arizona thing to fear. It's not an Arizona thing to fear the outsider. It's a human thing, and Californians went through it. Arizonans went through it, and it's always been our history as Americans. We've mistreated our immigrant populations, but give it a little time, and we always feel ashamed that we did that. We've come to realize that was a big mistake. The moment, the 1070 moment, was very short-lived. I don't think you're going to see anything like it again, really.
Follow up. I mean, are we in a different place, Denise, at all?
Absolutely, I feel we're in a different place. I also think that there is strength in numbers, and that we see more people standing up, standing tall, standing out, and speaking their minds in terms of their feelings about how we've acted and how we can act better moving forward. And as I said earlier, I do think it's incumbent of all of us to demonstrate how we lead at this moment in time and create some new history for Arizona. So I am quite encouraged, but I have to tell you it's very difficult following all that entertainment tonight because I'm not dancing or singing, but I have to tell you I'm so inspired by the spiciness, if you would, of our entertainment, by the soul, and by recognizing, too, that the border connects us, and it's something to celebrate. And we need to do more of what we've experienced tonight in terms of celebrating, not just criticizing, the immigrant population. And so I want to thank all of the performers tonight for inspiring us all.
Mayor, where do you think we're going now? I mean, you've been dealing with this issue. It was part of your campaign.
Well, I think we are headed to a very positive place in this regard. You asked the question, is it different now? It is a world of different now for a variety of reasons. Council General, I can't wait to hear his comments because he came to Arizona shortly after the passage of 1070, so he probably better than anyone can explain from his perspective how things have changed. But I would also say that there was an awakening in Arizona that being divisive and passing bills, extreme bills like 1070 that splash you across the front page of the paper and make your community appear to be divisive is really bad for business. It's bad for your economy. And it woke up a sleeping giant, which is the business community, which maybe because the economy had been so bad, they sort of had atrophied in the public policy process. And their lack of involvement, I think there was a vacuum there, and it was filled by some very ugly things like the anti-immigrant fervor that unfortunately existed in our community. They woke up and they spoke up, and you haven't seen a bill like 1070 since then, because finally common sense plus good business sense have come together and demanded that we be much smarter about how we go about it. As Denise just said, understand that the border is not just a place of partnership and artistic opportunity, etc., but also an incredible place of business opportunity. We have to view it as such. If we blow this moment right now and keep getting lapped by some other states that view the border in a much more positive light in terms of the economic opportunities, woe be us a decade or two from now. We will regret that we didn't take advantage of it. But I think we're getting our act together. I think we're being much smarter about public policy and really embracing our proximity to Mexico as a huge economic opportunity for us. So I'm an optimist. I think we're headed to a very good spot in this regard.
Have things changed since you arrived, sir?
Well, I think the big change is that we have this kind of crowd here, a very good part of our community, different ideologies, different beliefs, and we are here together. When I arrived in 2010, the last day of April, when the people came to the office, to this Mexican consulate, the people was with fear. And right now, and I congratulate Christian, our people have hope. That's a big difference. And one important recognition that I want to say here with our distinguished panelists is we have the opportunity to have a very open newspaper that presents all the perspectives, and I want to recognize the Arizona Republic for that. Also, I want to recognize the importance of the job that, well, this week, just yesterday, Mexico welcomes also this initiative, this new initiative of immigration reform in the Congress. And here, the Real Arizona Coalition was working very hard. Thank you, Denis, and thank you also the Jewish community to work together with the Latino to understand more about what are doing each other and our history. Also, I want to mention in this big change is that we have a leader as the mayor of Phoenix. Just last week, he was sitting with my boss, the new Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And he was in Mexico in just less than a year for third time. He was working very hard to change the stereotype that the Arizona has in Mexico. Because the stereotype of the Mexicans here, when I arrived in 2010, says Mexicans equal criminals. And I think the things are changing. Also in my country, I also consider a consul of Arizona in my country. Because the people think, Victor, what happened in Arizona and Phoenix? Everybody is like, you know, someone by the name Joe. I said, no. Now the real Arizona people is very persons with family ties, with business ties with Mexico, and that they look the border not as a problem, as an asset. And that is the change that we need to do, and I think the things are changing. The best is yet to come. Thank you.